Okay, thank you everyone for attending our Career Pathways Across the Disciplines Day 2, Media and Communications. We have some amazing panelists with us here today. I will let each of them introduce themselves and give maybe a 2-second blurb about their organization. And I will, just to kind of keep it easy, I'll do a alphabetical order. And so that means, Ashley, you are up first.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here today. My name is Ashley Orlando. I work as the Human Resource Manager for Hachette Book Group. We are the 4th largest publisher in the U.S., and we publish notable authors like James Patterson, Nicholas Sparks. We published Stephanie Myers, who wrote the Twilight Saga. I'm really excited to be here with you guys today.
Excellent. Thank you. George.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me today. My name is George Morse. I am a lifelong Rhode Islander, and I'm currently the head of internal communications at IGT. IGT is the worldwide leader, in lottery and gaming technology, and I've been with the company coming up on 3 years at the end of this month.
Excellent. Josh.
Hi, everybody. My name is Josh Fyalke. I am the Director of Talent Acquisition for Havas Media Group. We're a global media agency or global ad agency, headquarters in Paris, with our US headquarters in New York. And I've been there for a little over 5 years.
Excellent. And Teresa and Co.
I am Teresa Barzik and my associate Audra Milbauer, and we run TIB Creative Studios, which is a very, very small design firm out of Rhode Island in Providence. It's actually just the 2 of us at this point, and our main focus is in real estate marketing. So we're glad to be here. You have anything? No. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you all. So I'm just going to jump in with some questions. And so would all of you kind of describe what a general day might look like in your offices?
So I'll jump in if that's okay. I didn't see anybody too eager to go. So our offices for coming up on 2 years now, we've been virtual. So our virtual offices, we are all kind of scattered to the winds. We do have some folks who work out in the field, but most of us have been remote since the onset of COVID-19. It really runs the gamut, especially in internal communication. My typical day could begin with an organizational announcement for our company. It could then move on to creating some content for our intranet platform that serves as a daily content marketing service to employees. From there, it can move to a global town hall where some of our senior leaders talk to employees from around the world about the exciting happenings in our business, new products, new services, and the day could wrap up with a staff meeting. It really, really runs the gamut based on what's happening in our global operation and what it is we have to communicate to employees that day.
You want me to jump in from here?
Yeah.
Great. So, like George, we've been remote for about 2 years. We actually opened our office on November 1st for hybrid. So now folks are coming in 3 days a week, working from home 2 days a week. And that's actually been great. We've been really psyched to get everyone back together and, really kind of begin to redefine what our culture is going to look like as we move forward, kind of in the new the new days ahead. But for us, the beginning of the week for kind of entry-level roles tends to be really focused on reporting. So what happened last week? What were the results? Kind of what drove those results? Why? And what actions will we take? From there, the rest of the week is spent, in a lot of, we're fairly meeting heavy at times because some of our account teams for some of our larger accounts can be 90 people. So getting those teams together cross-channel, whether it's paid search, paid social, video or display, those sort of roles, getting the teams together to discuss, client budgets and kind of go forward strategies. The rest of the week is sprinkled with, campaign creation, optimizations, and quite a few client calls and vendor calls and meetings as well. We're a fairly social office and sort of industry. So we may bring in speakers, we may do happy hours, trainings and things like that as well. And we also do a lot of community service which, you know, I think we'll kick back into full once we're kind of a little bit more adjusted to being back in the office.
I can jump in next. So our headquarters is in New York, but we also have offices all throughout the country, and most of our offices are open, but staff aren't required to go in until hopefully sometime early next year. We'll also be doing a hybrid model. But yeah, our work also really runs the gamut. As a book publisher, a lot of what we do is look for authors that are going to publish books with us. So we get a lot of submissions from literary agents. And so especially our entry-level staff spend a lot of time going through those submissions, thinking about what kind of books might be viable. And then a lot of it is meeting with internal teams to get buy-in from everyone to make sure that we think the book fits the different business models for all of our publishing divisions, meeting with authors, working with marketing and publicity to think about how we can do events, and especially over the last 2 years, you know, really pivoting to so many different virtual initiatives, thinking about how we can create different advertising for our books. And then we also have a lot of teams that do like the physical and the digital production of books as well. So we have designers that design the covers, we have production staff that work with different printer presses throughout the country to help produce our books. And we are, you know, experiencing a lot of the, you know, global supply chain issues are definitely, you know, directly affecting us. So really right now it's a lot of meetings thinking about, you know, still ensuring how we're able to, you know, meet our deadlines and get books into the hands of readers. And it's definitely a very collaborative company. So there's a lot of different internal events. We do have a lot of author speaker events. We have a lot of philanthropy initiatives as well, a lot of training and development, a lot of ways for people to learn about the business, because I don't think a lot of people really, you know how books are made. So we really like to educate our staff so they can get that understanding.
So our day is pretty much come in and filter through our emails and see what people need to get done. We're actually transversing our company into a more automated site. We're currently building a site that will be a subscription-based site that people can go on and like pick out templates and designs that we've already built. So half of our day is spent working on this build of this new site, and the rest of it is like filtering through tasks that our current clients are asking us to do. So it's not too complicated. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, we're working here. We were working remotely, but now we're back in the office, and we did lose some people from COVID. So it's nice that we are able to come to a place to work. And right now it's just spending a lot of time like scheduling out what we're going to be doing and meeting with programmers and setting up for this new venture.
Excellent. And so, you know, thinking about how students are going to enter into the workplace, you know, what are some of the career pathways specifically to each of your companies that students should be thinking about when it comes to entry-level jobs? Do you want to take it away again, George?
Sure, why not? I am a firm believer in the power of internships. My career started with an internship just before I finished my undergraduate degree in journalism in 2008 from URI. Internships are great because it gets your foot in the door, and it really gives you a flavor of the organization and the kind of work that you can contribute to. So I would encourage everybody out there, if you have an opportunity to pursue an internship, it is immensely valuable. And not only, like I said, giving you a flavor of an organization, but allowing you to put your skills and your knowledge that you've accumulated the last few years to really put that to the test in the professional environment and find out what you're passionate about, what you're good at, what skills you need to improve. And it is a tremendous networking opportunity.
Excellent. Ashley, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so I think when a lot of people think about book publishing, they think about editors, but we do have so many other career paths. And typically our entry-level roles start at the assistant level, and they're in basically every department imaginable. So of course, editorial, but then I mentioned before, marketing, publicity, we have design assistants, production, we have copy editors and proofreaders that also start at the entry level. And then a ton of, accountants, people that work in our finance team, IT. So it really is a really broad array of roles. So what I always tell, potential candidates is that I think there's something for everyone. And if you like books, we'd love to have you work with us. And I also agree that I think internships are a really great gateway, especially if people are not familiar with the publishing industry and they might not know exactly what they want to do. So we do hire recent graduates into our intern program and students as well. And I think that's a really nice way to network and get to know the business.
Great. Josh.
Great. So I would say internships are great. You know, and to Ashley and George's point, introduction to the industry, an understanding of is this something I want to do? Do I like this? That sort of thing. But I would also I'm going to contradict myself a bit. At Havas, a few years ago, we started looking at ways to really increase our diversity in hiring. And diversity goes across a lot of different areas and it checks a lot of different boxes. So what we found is there's a lot of students out there who aren't able to do internships during college because they're working part-time or full-time jobs to get themselves through school. So when we, a few years ago, kind of started to take a look at this, what we realized was internships are great, but for me and for my team, when we're looking at people, someone who's putting themselves through school, someone who's showing that discipline, that hard work, and that ability to juggle full-time school and working, to us is just as valuable. I think that skill set that you learn in a customer service role, whether it's waiting tables, bartending, working retail, we're a client services organization. Those sort of skills are extremely transferable. So I would say when you're looking at an entry-level role and you're kind of doubting yourself, I don't have these skills, I never worked in an office, take a look at what you're doing and what you've done and what you know, how you put yourself through school, what you did in school, and really start to think outside the box, how those skills can be extremely transferable to the role that you're interviewing for, or you know, in a company. So you know, for me, it's kind of looking at what you did and really figuring out the best way to make sense of it as it relates to the future.
So we're pretty much a startup. So anybody that comes to us is going to grow with us. So what we like to see is a portfolio. And if people are still learning, portfolio like internship is great too. But we have the time and energy to be able to like help facilitate growth and hoping that they'll grow with our company. So it's what we like to see is like portfolio based stuff, pretty much, like and help with that.
Yeah, and I think for advice, as you were saying, when I got out of school too, I couldn't really intern, but what I did was try to take, for example, I went into printing just because I knew it was part of the field and it was something I could really learn, the graphic side, the media side. And so I try not to focus on like what I was making money-wise and just what was involved in what I wanted to do to start. And my goal was never to work for bigger companies. I always wanted to be in a smaller environment. So my advice would be to, you know, if internship is obviously amazing, but if you can't, to just kind of, you know, look into what is involved, and there's so much more than just what you want to do and kind of learn, and you're going to grow so much. And I learned so many things I didn't think I would from printing in the graphics world and media world. So I think it's just important to give things a shot and find out what your passion is. Sometimes you'll surprise yourself when you're in the work field of what you're interested in.
Excellent. So I actually want to pick back up on Josh's point about diversity and then, you know, equity and inclusion. And so Teresa, actually, do you want to start by, you know, what are the goals, you know, do you have goals for your company, especially as you're looking to create something new, or, you know, what's important in that field for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Audra's.
I mean, for right now, as in diversity, it's just us. I think we really try to put that in our design work. It's really important. We pay attention to, you know, race, sex, pronouns, gender, anything that have to do with that. Right now, we're really focused on putting that in our design to communicate it that way. But I think for a goal, something we discussed when we do start to grow is just having a lot of education on what's going on and in the company, and, you know, like making sure we educate on like just bullying and stuff. And I think we are, you know, pretty much like a starting with some like already like queer things that we put out there, which is very important. So we're already opening up in a certain way. But I think putting back into the community, stuff like that we're focused on. But right now it's really important conversation, but it's something we don't have thousands of people to educate. So I think, you know, eventually our goal isn't to have thousands of people, but when we do, I mean, yeah.
You
it's
never
just-
know.
But like, yeah, I think really that's in that way right now is putting diversity into design, which is a really important motto, and then going from there as the company builds.
Excellent, thank you. Ashley, do you want to pick up?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think diversity is truly fundamental to all aspects of our business, and especially because all readers are connecting with our books. We want to ensure that everyone feels like they're reflected in the pages of our books, and so I think that comes from ensuring that our staff reflects the population today, and so all of our managers are required to interview a diverse slate of candidates before they're able to close a job. We also have a ton of different internal training initiatives, as well as a really active diversity advisory group that has a lot of different initiatives throughout the year that staff get involved in. We also have a bunch of employee resource groups that create safe spaces for employees from different backgrounds. And then also on the acquisition end, all of our publishing divisions have goals around diversity to ensure that the authors that they're bringing in also reflect the population as well. So definitely really important.
Excellent. George, what about IGT?
So one of my absolute favorite facets of IGT is the company's commitment to DEI. Right off the bat, the first thing that comes to mind, Ashley just mentioned some of those employee resource groups. We have several. We have groups for our LGBTQ plus population, military veterans, employees over 50, women, employees with disabilities. I'm sure that I am forgetting some. Those groups are really empowered to run programs, initiatives that engage their relevant populations, and all employees across the entire company are encouraged to join any one of what we call diversity and inclusion groups, or DIGs, regardless of whether they personally are of the population that the group is aimed at. We do a lot of DE&I programming. Just last month, we had a 3-part series, 3-hour-long webinars about allyship. We have an executive leadership council that is complemented by regional councils all over the world. And we do extensive benchmarking and data analysis to see how our workforce is stacking up against the goals we have to have a diverse workforce.
Josh, do you want to add anything to what you had previously said?
Yeah, sure. So for us, again, a lot of what Ashley and George said. We have employee resource groups. We call them squads, and they, are across a bunch of different groups. We do a lot of events where we'll get some squads together. Additionally, we have hiring goals in mind. We look to target a 70% diverse internship class. We do summer interns, and in terms of full-time hiring, our goal this year was to do at least 50% of diverse hiring. I believe, and this is a couple months ago when we looked, we're at about 55% ethnically diverse hires for this year, which if anyone else here is in the talent acquisition world, it is the craziest world out there right now ever. So for us to be able to hit those numbers, we're super proud. It's a really, it's a huge area of passion for me and my team. It really matters to us. We work with some recruitment partners, like platforms that help us with some of that DE&I. We partner with a lot of like Boston-based or New York-based, Chicago-based schools, and do some programs for veterans, for first-generation college students, things like that. So really, really important to us, and I'm extremely proud of the efforts that Havas has made in the last few years to hit some of these numbers.
Excellent, thanks. And so since you keep opening segues for me, I am gonna
rehearse this, so it's all
exactly. So actually, if you want to keep going and talk maybe a little bit more about Havas's internship program, and then also too, what should students be thinking about as far as how should they prepare if they're going to go into an internship interview? What should they know?
Sure. So our internship hiring process is actually fairly unique. So we run a summer internship. They've been virtual, obviously, for the last couple of years. I think we should be good to, I'm going to knock on this fake wood that my desk is, and hope that we are in person this year, because I think we've missed out on a lot of that value. But for us, we run a summer internship. We run one in New York, Boston, and Chicago, our 3 main hubs. And it ranges from, probably 10 to 15 in Boston, probably about 5 to 10 in Chicago, and about 30 in New York. It is a full-time paid internship, 40 hours a week, 10 hours. 10 weeks. And you will get selected and be on a specific team. On that team, you're going to act like an entry-level employee. So you're going to own your own projects. You're going to be client-facing. You're going to be working with partners and some of the networks that we work with. In past years, we've also done like an internship program or project. So, the interns will work together in teams and build like a media plan. We built an influencer media plan a couple of years ago. So it really ranges. I think we've got some new people running the program this year. So, and they are about 2 years out of school. So I think they're going to bring probably some new and fresh ideas. This old man, has been running it for a couple of years. So the interesting thing that we do is you apply. We do a phone screen. Someone on my team will reach out, talk to someone for about a half hour, really understand what interested them about this opportunity. Why media? What do they know about media? Answer any questions. From there, the second and final round is actually a PowerPoint presentation. So we don't do interviews for that second round. We have them answer. It's like a 10 to 12 question like rubric, which we score them against. And the idea of this PowerPoints is really to allow, sometimes people get really nervous in interviews, things like that. This PowerPoint really allows them to craft their story in a way that shows who they are, some, kind of a little bit of their creative side, as well as what does diversity mean to them? What does meaningful media, which is a big thing for us, what does that mean for them? So all those questions are answered in that PowerPoint. And then my team goes through and picks people from there. So it's fairly unique in that we don't have that interview as the second round, it's just the first round.
Excellent. Ashley, what about Hachette?
Yeah, so we run internship programs every fall, spring, and summer. The bulk of our interns, though, are in the summer, where we hire about 50 interns throughout the country. The program has been virtual the last few years, so it still remains to be seen what it will look like for this year, but I'm hoping for a hybrid model, because I do think it's nice to engage talent all throughout the country, even if they're not based in like New York or Boston. Our interns typically work Monday through Thursday, 9 to 5, so it's about 28 hours a week, and it is paid. And similar to what Josh was saying, our interns get to do lots of hands-on projects. They really get involved in department initiatives, attend all different department meetings. We really want interns to get a holistic experience and understand the business, get to network with lots of people and really be involved. We love to hire interns and have a really great track record of hiring our interns into full-time roles. So that's definitely a focus of the program. So throughout the program, the interns will attend different weekly educational sessions. It's a series that we call Make It Your Business to Know the Business. And our interns will get to know different functions of Hachette. And then in addition to that, we do an intern project as well. It's typically like a life of a book, where they'll come up with a book idea in groups and then take us through like the editorial plan, the marketing strategy, design, etc. for it, and then they present it to our senior leadership team at the end. In terms of what we look for when we're recruiting, so definitely knowledge of the company is important. We do look for people that like books and reading and then could share that with us. And then the way that Hachette is structured is that we have 8 publishing divisions, and they each publish pretty vastly different types of books. And so our job postings will indicate which intern roles the position's associated with. So for example, if it's an internship that's going to work with romance books, during the phone interview, which is usually our first step as well, we'll really ask candidates to talk about, why romance? Are you familiar with our authors? Are you familiar with the genre? What trends have you seen? And so we really do dive into that. And, we're very open in terms of skills and experience. Definitely that passion for books is what we look for. And then typically after that phone screen, interns will do an interview with the hiring manager. And then we also typically do some type of assignment as well. So it might be coming up with a few social media strategies if it's a marketing internship, or if it's an editorial, it may be reading a sample chapter and giving us some notes for a potential author, things like that.
Excellent. George.
So this might seem really simple, but I think it's important to be mindful of it. One of the first questions I ask intern candidates when we're interviewing them for a position is why they want this particular internship. And it seems so foundational, and it seems like such an easy question. It's 50-50 that candidates are actually prepared to answer that question. I once had a candidate, and I asked them, why are you interested in this position? And, they said that it would be an opportunity to get good experience. And I said, well, yes, it would be communications experience. What are you thinking for a career? And they told me they were interested in going into real estate. So obviously, working in internal may not necessarily prepare you for a career in real estate. So just in your own mind, be comfortable with understanding the opportunity that you are interested in. And if somebody asks you why you're interested in the opportunity, be prepared to explain or be prepared to demonstrate your knowledge of the company and how you believe the knowledge you've acquired of the company dovetails with your professional interests and the experience that you're looking to grow during your internship.
Excellent. Teresa.
All right, so for interns, we're still kind of small and growing. We've dealt with a lot of high school interns in the past, so it's actually been fun to like teach them the basic fundamentals of design and like marketing as much as I can. As far as having a more advanced student that knows the programs much better, we're always open to taking any type of internship. The thing with us is like they can work around their own schedule. If they have their own, if they have, classes and work outside of the internship, we're very accommodating. We're located in Providence, so we would like the interns to come work with us in the office. And the neat thing about having an intern, I think we would also learn from them, because I think there's a lot of like technological things that we're still trying to keep up with. So having a younger mind, we might learn some new things from them as well. So do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think right now, in taking interns for us, it's really even beyond design. We are doing, like, we've taken people in for like social media and stuff like that, that we're learning as well. So there are more opportunities than just design right now. And the fun part right now is that we're able to be a little bit more creative than we've able to been in years with this, the new Reezy market. But there's more than just design available, because we are going to be going into, marketing ourselves as well as marketing other people. So.
Yeah, Audra and I we're wearing very many hats right now. So any internship would be great to help us out as well. So.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And so this, obviously, we have, a variety of year levels, as far as the students on, participating today. So I think that this next question will be super important, for some of the younger students. What do you predict your fields or your industry areas are going to look like, in maybe 5 years or so, especially as students are considering, what other jobs might be out there? Or I know that some students are worried that, they're going into an area that might be saturated, by the time that they're ready to graduate. So do you have any ideas or predictions for what the fields, what the jobs might look like in about 5 years? I know it's a deep question, so I'm not necessarily going to pick anyone. So if you've got an idea, feel free to unmute.
I can jump in on this for the design aspect of it. I've noticed from 5 years ago to now, things are becoming a lot more automated, and designing it itself, like you can go on Canva and anybody can and create a design. Whereas like 5 years ago, even 2 years ago, you had to have the technology and the knowledge of how design works. So and for instance, what we're doing is we're creating a system where we're trying to be ahead of that and have our designs readily available for people that don't necessarily have the eye for design or know how things should be placed correctly. So I think for students, it's knowing what the technology is going to be if you're interested in the design field, and like trying to stay on top of it and using it to your advantage. So if you're going to learn design, the programs, but also learn Canva or whatever the advanced technology is, and become good at that as well, because your clients will want to use that, and you should be able to help them learn it as well, I guess. And do you have any? That's it for us then.
I think Christy hates the fact that our office believes each one of us is our own Canva guru, and she'd probably prefer it if we just stopped.
It's definitely hard as a designer to watch this happen, but we're trying to keep up with it.
I can jump in to answer next. I've been in the media industry pretty much since I graduated college. And I think no more period of time has been more transformational than what we've seen in the last 2 years. Advertising agencies, whether it's the media side or the creative side, is very collaborative. So, being together and building that culture and working, hand in hand really has driven our industry for decades. So obviously the last, year and a half, almost 2 years with us going fully remote was really interesting and, worked really well. Now we're starting to see people wanting to kind of, again, get back to that hybrid. But I think what we've seen in the industry and what we will continue to see over the next few years is some industries that haven't necessarily been considered that like sexy in the past, people are much more interested in working towards. So for Havas, about half of our business out of the New York office is pharmaceutical and healthcare advertising. The other half is a mix of more CPG and things like that. But more and more people now are more willing to and more open to hearing about pharmaceutical opportunities than they have in the past, because obviously when the pandemic hit, travel clients and luxury clients all kind of went dark, especially the travel industry was hit really hard. So industries that are a little bit more resilient are more interesting to people. So I think what you're going to start to see is a shift more into healthcare. I know that we actually launched kind of a separate business unit about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, focused on health. So I think that's one thing. The other is it's really getting more and more difficult to reach consumers with a media message. So how do we do that? And how do we create these relationships with consumers that are less sort of, I'm selling to you? It's more of, hey, here's some content, or here's an offer, or, here's this brand. How can we get it to mean something for you? The idea for us when we talk about meaningful brands is think about the brands that you interact with on a regular basis. Think about the ones that if they were to go away would affect you. You'd be impacted negatively. Maybe there's some brands that you absolutely can't stand, and if they were to go out of business, that would be great. But for us, it's trying to figure out how to get around that clutter and kind of build that meaningful relationship with our consumers. So I think as advertising 5 to 10 years from now, it's going to get even tougher, even harder to stand out of that clutter and be kind of looked at as a trusted source rather than someone who's just trying to sell to you. So I think that's really where this industry is going to go. It's going to have to be, people are going to have to be more resourceful, really think out of the box. And I think you'll see in the next, probably 2 to 3 years that kind of some of the old ways of advertising, social media, for instance, search marketing, are going to change quite a bit. Display is going to continue to, be a big part of what we do. And obviously with streaming, there's unlimited possibilities there with some of our streaming platforms and channels. So it's going to be very different in 5 to 10 years, I think, than it is today.
Right.
Yeah, I would just reinforce what Josh just said. Really, really, really pay attention to how you and the people you know consume content. My parents, when they were my age, they had to seek out information. You had to go buy the newspaper. You had to be home at a certain time to watch the evening news. Now, as Josh was saying, we are bombarded with information. I would bet a shiny quarter that every single student on this call has checked their phone at least twice since this started. And I can't blame you, because if I were in your position, I would be checking my phone as well. When we are getting ready to run a global webinar, I could have the best messaging in the world. We could have record profits or growth or whatever it might be. It's not going to mean a thing if somebody goes on Instagram and likes a photo of your cat. So really, really, really pay attention to how people consume content. If we had this call 5 years ago, no one would have mentioned TikTok because it wouldn't have even been on your radar. And guess what? Nowadays, you can't not mention TikTok. So if we had a crystal ball, it would be fantastic, but we don't. So every day in everything you do, keep your eyes open for how you and everyone you know is consuming content, because that will be the roadmap for your work in media and communications when you get into the field.
Yeah, I agree with all of that as well. Like, I think our roles will stay the same for the most part, but what we're asking for and what we expect people to know and trends that they should be aware of, I think that will change a lot. And I'm even noticing for just a lot of entry level roles, we're just asking for people to be familiar with like the Adobe Creative Suite and have some design skills. Like, and I know we talked about Canva, like that's something we want people to be familiar with. Even like some light coding with like HTML, CSS, or even being familiar with like the back end of websites. I think we're seeing that a lot more at the entry level, asking candidates to have some exposure to things like that and be able to talk about that in interviews.
Great. So I'm gonna remind the student participants that in about 2 seconds, I'm gonna open it up to a free-for-all of questions from you all. You can feel free to either unmute yourself and ask the question yourself, or if you would rather kind of keep it on the DL a little bit, you are welcome to put it into the chat. Holly is monitoring the chat, so if something pops up, we'll ask it for you. But as the students kind of think about what they might want to ask, I got an amazing question at a speed networking event a few months ago, and it was from a student asking, "What do you wish you started sooner?" And so while the students think about their question, I will open it up to you all. What do you wish you started sooner?
Well, I mean, for me, I restarted this part of my career about 8 years ago. So I was in media for the first, I don't know, like the math may not work here, but first about 15 years of my career. And then kind of decided I needed a change and stumbled into recruitment. And I've been doing that for the last 7-8 years. And I've loved it. So, for me, restarting it and doing something totally different really has been an amazing kind of second chapter in my career. So I said to my wife recently, I wish that I had done this right out of school. I think this would have been a great career area for me. But, at the same time, I think it's never too late to restart and to learn and try something new. So I'm going to answer your question a little bit differently and say that I wish I had started this earlier, but I'm not sure if I would be the recruiter and the leader that I am today had I not taken that kind of different path.
I would tell myself, I wish I had started studying project management principles earlier in my career. It doesn't matter what you're doing, what kind of line of work you're in, whatever it might be. Project management principles are incredibly helpful, especially when you have multiple conflicting priorities, which everybody on this call knows all about. I really, really wish when I was learning, proper quote attribution, how to set up a lead, how to lay out a page in a newspaper, that I was more familiar with the Project Management Institute and all of the wonderful advice and resources they have. Learning about project management will help you immensely in any field you go into.
I think for me personally, I wish I would have learned more about social media marketing and tapped into more of this TikTok and stuff to get ahead of the curve. But I'm really interested to see where the metaverse goes and the AI and stuff like that. So I'm going to try and be ahead of the curve in that as far as marketing goes and how I can contribute to that.
I think for me, like learning more of the back end of stuff, like basic coding and in the programming world, I was just feeling like I only needed to know these programs and graphic design and just so focused on learning that and not stuff that now is considered entry level. I feel I'm going backwards in that. So that's something I wish I focused on. And I think it would be even helping us right now when we're paying programmers I'm learning with them. I kind of wish that I could be heading that instead of having other people. I mean, it's great to have a bunch of minds together, but I feel that's my biggest regret.
Yeah, I remember my senior year of college being me just constantly panicking about what I wanted to do. So I think I wish I would have kept an open mind sooner, because I think once I graduated and started seeing all the rules that were out there and really thinking about what skills I have and then maybe where I wanted to do it, I think that opened up a lot of doors for me. And then that's when I started thinking about media and publishing and realizing that I can apply my skills to an industry I'm passionate about. I think that took a lot of pressure off and really helped me explore what I was passionate about.
Excellent. So to our student participants, does anyone have a question that they would like to ask our panelists?
I think we've left them speechless.
You have indeed. So any advice, any question you would have loved to have asked if you were given this opportunity for a panel discussion?
You've been so thorough. All the questions are answered and our chat is empty.
This might seem wildly basic, but it's really, really, really important not to overlook the importance of networking and just meeting people. You could get all the certifications, you could get all the trainings, you could be an expert in different tools and different technologies. Meet people, go to networking events, talk to people, make connections on LinkedIn. Seriously, meet people. One of the things we learned in journalism school was the importance of your contacts. You can't be everywhere at once, right? You can't know what's happening in every company and every opportunity that's out there. You could spend all day on Indeed or on LinkedIn Jobs, wherever it might be. You could be scouring around for opportunities. Nothing is going to be as valuable to you as knowing people and having professional relationships. It is, I cannot overstate the importance of that. Oh, it looks like someone's asking me a question.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, George, you have a question. Yes.
All right. So as a journalism major myself, how did your background in journalism prepare you for your career? Oh my goodness, Juliana, thank you so much for that question. I use my journalism degree every single day. Even when I'm not doing journalistic activities, even if I'm not writing, right? A huge part of being a journalist is talking to people and being able to identify information, synthesize that information, knowing who your contacts are, knowing your source for information. My company has 11,300 people in 59 countries. I could never, ever, ever in my wildest dreams be any number of those places. It's hard enough for me to get around Rhode Island. So forget about the rest of the world. So the skills that I picked up as a journalist investigating stories, forget about writing copy, forget about all that. I'm not sure if you're a broadcast or if you're print or if you're PR. There usually tends to be a mix. The foundation for all of it is the ability to talk to people, recognize information that would be valuable to others, and synthesize that information in a way that folks are able to consume. I also wanted to circle back way in the beginning of the presentation. Josh had mentioned not sleeping on the skills that you develop, whether it's waiting tables, whether it's working in retail. I'm going to date myself a little bit. I worked for Blockbuster Video for 8.5 years when I was a teenager in the earlier part of my 20s. Incredibly valuable. I mean, when you're behind the counter, right, you talk to dozens, if not hundreds of different people every day. And nothing can prepare you better for working in a communications environment than being comfortable talking to strangers, trying to find out what their interests are, trying to figure out what their needs are, and then consolidating that against the sources that you curated and the information that you know you have access to. So I could not do what I do with internal communication if I hadn't gone to journalism school and if I hadn't spent years as a beat reporter thereafter. The principles of journalism, the principles of sourcing content, the principles of synthesizing information, their reach and their potential is incredibly vast.
Thank you so much.
You got it.
I'll share a little advice as you go into kind of interviewing. Someone years ago gave me this advice, and I use it, and I share this a lot with candidates. I think whether you're interviewing for your first job or your fifth, sometimes you really feel like I just need a job. I need a job. And when you're interviewing, it's really, really important to interview the company even more than they're interviewing you. So what I mean there is, you're in a job interview and you're like, I need a job. And you may be like, this place is great. I got a great vibe here. The conversations are flowing really comfortably. I can imagine myself here. And that's a great, great feeling. At the same time, you could be in an interview and there's red flags flying up everywhere. It's really, really important to take those red flags and look at the opportunity as, is this a place that I can see myself coming to 40 to 50 hours a week for the next year, 2 years, 3 years, what have you? And it may not be. And that's okay. Ask those questions. And it's obviously in an interview, you want to have questions, but ask real questions. If there's something that in that interview that made you kind of hesitate, talk about that. It's much better to walk away from an opportunity than to take an opportunity that in your heart of hearts doesn't feel like a good fit. I know in my career, I've taken 1 or 2 roles that I shouldn't have. I had a recruiter once reach out to me about a job when I was in media, and answered the phone and he said, hey, how about, are you interested in this type of role? And I said, sure, as long as it's not a company XYZ. And after a really awkward chuckle, he said, that's actually the company. And I said, great, let's talk about it. And I went to work there, and I regretted it from the first day to the last day. And it taught me a lot. So again, and that was late in my career, and I was able to, at that point, kind of look at it differently because it wasn't, early in my career. But it's really, really important to look at opportunities and think through them. Don't take a job, take a career. So, it's just really important way to look at things, and have your eyes wide open for every opportunity.
Excellent. So any other questions from the students? So I'm actually curious to know, and I think some of you have touched upon this kind of a little bit already. Is there anything in particular, any advice you got early on that helped you? Any particular person in general that might have helped you? Someone that some like type of person that maybe these students should be looking to for some help or some advice?
I think I talked to a lot of recent grads or about to be grads, and my thing is, as a recruiter, I'm always looking to fill roles in my company. But as I always say to entry-level students, I'm also here to help you and to guide you and to answer those questions, whether it's about your resume or interview prep, anything like that. I found when I started my first job in media, I was a little bit lost. Again, journalism major, stumbled into media. I didn't even know what a media agency was. So a little bit lost and a little bit of a challenge in kind of buckling down and really starting that first chapter of adulthood. So, you're going to meet people along the way, whether it's someone your first manager or, some of your early colleagues or even recruiters at companies. I think George kind of mentioned earlier, networking, building relationships with people. You're going to find that a lot of people in the work world want to help. We've all been, new to the job world. We've all, left school and kind of looked at the world and like, where do I go from here? So, as you talk to people and you build these relationships, you know, there's a lot of people out there who want to help you. So kind of take that help. And if someone says, hey, let me introduce you to this person or that person, take that. You know, I know one of my first managers would end every day by saying thank you. Every day as she was leaving or as I was leaving, she would say, thanks so much for your help today. It was really appreciated. And it's probably the greatest management advice I've ever received. And I always kind of make sure to thank my team and show appreciation. And, you know, I can't always give them something, you know, like a bonus or things like that. But, you know, that sort of appreciation every day is, I think as, you know, as an employee, I appreciate it, and hope my team does as well. But I think, you know, you'll meet people along the way that really will shape how you are as an employee, as a manager, as a person. So kind of look for those people and, you know, understand what you've got when you have it.
Great. Thank you. So oh, yeah, go.
I was just gonna say, one advice that I have that I think is important is like ask questions, even if you feel like they're stupid or embarrassed. Just ask them. It's the way to learn. And even in fields like I've worked in marketing, and just like even asking each department questions about their department, or if you don't know something, just ask. I think that we're always so nervous to ask people questions, and it really, you'd be surprised how willing people are to help you.
So I think this will be probably a good time to get breakout rooms started. So first, I want to say thank you to all of the panelists for participating in our open panel Q&A. You all have been wonderful, and your advice and what you've talked about has been great. To the students, we do have 2 more days coming up, tomorrow and Thursday, with a whole new slate of speakers. So please, you know, if you've got the time and the opportunity, please join us again tomorrow or Thursday. So I'm going to open up the breakout rooms. They are named by the organization. And then the students feel free to just jump into whichever one, you know, whichever one you want to chat with, and then, you know, obviously feel free to you know, join multiple, you know, come in and out. So breakout rooms will be open for the next 30 minutes.